Okay guys, here's where the action is, and here's a nice look at the engine, and that's an 850 Holley double pumper, which is a mighty big carburetor, and even here is expensive. That's an $800 carburetor here. This is where the numbers are to show that it's LS7, which shows the XCH on the back end, which makes it a very valuable motor. I'm pulling off this, it's basically a basic tunnel ram, and replacing it with the genuine LS7 and intake manifold, and it'll need, you know, much better rocker covers than what it has. It's got really huge exhaust pipes. They're the biggest set of headers I've ever seen. All the chassis and everything's very, very good. It's actually better than my El Camino. And the only rust we have has already been cut out, and it was down there. And as you can see, the bottom plate is still fine, and that's pretty amazing for a 1969 car. That's the only actual rust spot on the car. It's luckily we pulled off the vinyl roof, because as you can see here, that's heavy surface rust. I've killed the rust, ground it all out, but there is heavy surface rust there, and if we'd have left it, that would have been going through to holes. Probably, I don't know, Perth weather's pretty good, so maybe it would have lasted a few years, but it's actually lucky that we pulled off the vinyl roof. I've got most of the glue off, as you can see, but it still needs another major sand to get the final glue off. And the rear bumper's coming off today, and here we have the rear fender. The rear fender's actually, the top of the rear fender is very nice and straight, and it's had a couple of little parking dings. That's the old work. I'll renew all that and fix it. And virtually no surface rust here in this section of the roof, and the bottom part of the fender there is pretty good, except for one little parking dent at the bottom. And the door is very good. I've just started straightening it, so I've just started applying filler, and I think I've got a bit of a high spot there. I'm going to have to tap that down a little bit and just see if I can get a lot less filler in there. All that's still got to be sanded off. That's just applied. No rust in the usual places. In here is excellent. Quite often they rust really bad there. It's very, very good. This side, absolutely rust free. The bottom of the inner fender on the firewall, which I've never seen one without rust, but there's no rust at all on this side. And the chassis, as you can see, the chassis never been hit. It's actually a very, very good car. This is the new compressor I just bought. I paid $179 plus tax for that, which is just an amazing deal. Here's the inside of the hood. I'm replacing the inside of the hood. In here is pretty heavy surface rust, and the surface rust in this area here that's been painted, and it's just starting. Maybe a little bit of surface rust just on the front lip, but not much. But the cutout here for the hood pins is not good enough. I want to do a much better job than that, so I figure better we get a new hood. Here's the radiator support panel, which is in excellent condition, and there's the radiator. It's a big aftermarket alloy radiator, which this car will need, and so that's very good. And I can't open the doors for you to show you how nice the inside is, because of the I've got it all taped up, but I can show you inside the trunk. The trunk floor is absolutely excellent. Virtually not even any surface rust. It is just very, very good. It's solid as a rock. and I'd been looking at some of the cars. They hardly had any trunk floor left, and considering my 1970 model Cuda convertible, the trunk floor was full of rust, and I bought that in 1976, I think. No, it must have been 1978 to 1979. The Cuda convertible floor was rusted out, and there was just one little panel of surface rust just there, which I hit with the correct acids, and it is very good. These corners have had a little bit of surface rust, which are going to be repaired, but it's still solid as a rock, and there's no heavy surface rust in these corners where they normally go. And we've got surface rust which is formed underneath the vinyl roof, and here are the rivets for the vinyl roof. I've got to grind each of those off and cut those off. I'm going to put a new trunk lid on it. There's a little bit of surface rust going here, that's not much, but it's just starting to get surface rust, lumpy surface rust under the paint up here. And so it's normally perfectly repairable. For the amount of time and effort to strip that trunk lid and get it dead straight, I'd much rather just have a brand new trunk lid. And so that, you know, that makes that excellent. Under the car, you can see a nice 12-bolt diff there. You can see a torque ladder there and a torque ladder over there. They keep the car very nice and tight. This is a very good car to drive with virtually no rattles, and they may have to come off for Perth if it goes over the pits, but I'd recommend you certainly put those torque ladders back on. It'll make a big difference. And as you can see, the fuel tank, the hole underneath of the car was rust proofed when it was brand new, and that has really helped this car a lot. And yeah, even the fuel tank doesn't have anything in the way of surface rust, but I may put a new fuel tank in it. It's a 40-year-old fuel tank. They should be replaced, and for the cost of a couple of $100 and, you know, an hour or so's work, I think we should put in a new fuel tank, but we'll take a look at that when the body's finished. So I'm just getting up, and this is just in the workshop. Claire's just out getting some compressor oil so I can fire the compressor up so I can use my impact wrench to take off the rear bumper. There's all our stock, and there's my telephone. So catch up with you later.